Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Living New Earth podcast. Another episode. So much going on January 2nd, 2025. I told you yesterday in my podcast, it is going to be absolutely insane what's going to happen. This is like no other time in history. This is nothing that we're speculating on. This is nothing that we're questioning. This is nothing that we're going to go, well, this is going to happen and then let's see. It's happening and it's going to continue to happen. And this is why today I want to talk about what is happening in our lives, our practical everyday life. What are we seeing? What are we experiencing? And particularly, ladies, how are you navigating your new knowings and your new realization of who you are? And those of you that maybe wouldn't confidently say that you know who you are yet, you have a very strong inkling that it is not what you're currently doing. So I have been seeing lots of clients and talking to both men and women and really parsing out what is going on. What do I do? How do I move forward? And what does that look like? Okay. So I have gone through all of that, and I am going to talk to you about how do you now, it could be the man or the woman. Okay. If you are in a partnership, you are in a marriage, and you are getting information. I'm just going to talk to the women right now. Okay. And then the men, you have another role in all of this and understanding this. And even if you are not in a relationship, you are in a relationship with women, and the women are changing and the women are realizing their spiritual essence. So the women bring in the spiritual and the men put it together into the physical. But the problem is, or what we're now experiencing is, one, women don't know this about themselves. They don't know what's happening to them. They don't know their role. Why? Because our energies are inverted. They're inverted. So this whole thing about feminism, becoming a feminist and telling us that we need to be these boss babes and out there having careers and pounding the pavement and baling hay and driving dump trucks and all this kind of stuff that men do, and that everyone can do it. It was never the issue of if they can do it or not. But that is not where their gifts lie. That's not where their passions are. Okay. To be physically out there like that. And it is throwing the energies off. It is throwing the frequencies off because we have women acting like men and men acting like women. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows what frequencies to stand in and feel confident in. And on top of that, we're going through this huge energetic change. And so our frequency is all over the place. And when it's way up here and our emotions are really raw, and we don't know that this is happening. This is why I'm coming out. You don't know that this is happening. And so then you're making decisions. You're making decisions about things that you shouldn't be making when you're at this state. You need to let the things fall. So I do frequency and sound scans. And I scan people, and I do it primarily 99.9% remotely, but I do once in a while meet somebody and they come to my house, my healing center / house. But I do this and I'm able to see their emotional panel. I'm able to see their spiritual protection and what's going on. And it is all over the place right now. People are not grounded. They do not know what they're doing. And that's going to bring us to the financial piece because every single coaching session that I have, every single interaction, conversation I have when I'm trying to hear where somebody is at with something and they're asking for assistance and they want a scan or whatever, they are staying in their job. Okay. They're staying in their job, their job, because they need a paycheck. And maybe they got into the ISO tokens. Okay. Maybe they got into the X coins, which is a form of crypto. If you're new to my information, I talk about all of these things that we're doing and how to put them in place so that you have a life of flow right now and abundance, because abundance is the condition of my life. That is our motto here at the Reality Shifters, and we live it. So I am living in a situation where, I mean, my job is this, going out, doing my podcast, meeting, coaching people, helping them move through this is such a foundational, amazing position to be in. But I created this position. Nobody hired me for it. Nobody would hire me for it. And I had to make the decision 7 years ago. And I was in a big job as a practice manager at a dermatologist's office. And I was not willing to toe the line then. Okay. They were doing outrageous things then, but I left that job and I haven't looked back. Have I thought about looking back? Yes, I have, because I have gone through this too, where it's like, what do you mean we're getting out of the matrix? And then what do I do with my time? And then what if you have your kids in school? How many of you guys have your kids in public school or a traditional school, like a private school that is taught where you memorize facts and you do a test and it's all divided up and all that? Okay. So what is happening right now is you're in your jobs. Your kids are in an institution. You're in an institution, in your corporate institution, whatever job you're doing. Everything's falling apart. Your husband and you are not getting along. You're not connecting, or your partner, whoever it is. Your relationships are tumultuous, difficult, and you're trying to create a flow while you hold on, while you keep your kids in an institution, while you keep yourself in a job that is low frequency. So you're literally taking your kids and you are removing them from your home and you are giving them to the state so that you can go to your job and make money, okay? To make money to go pay your rent, your mortgage, your gas, your tax, so that you can get up and send your kid to an institution and send yourself to a job. So you are giving your soul away. Ladies, you're giving your family away. You are not, you are not, you are not, you are not raising your kids, your family in the way that you should be doing it, in a way that is going to bring prosperity and love and connection. Is that what you want? Isn't that what you want? Why are you going? I'm talking only to the people that know or that want to be home, that want to quit their job, want to get their kids out of school, but you're falling for the line, or you're married to somebody who you feel like, oh my God, I have to go along with him. I have to go along with him. He's saying the kids have to be in school. He's saying I have to go to work. He's saying that we can't make it without my income. It's nothing against the partner who is telling one partner that they have to go to work, but nobody can tell you that you need to go to work, and you do not need to go to work in order to have abundance and in order to survive. It's actually always been the case. There's been other ways, but we haven't lived in that way, so we're not able to prove it. But I can prove it in that I have been not in getting a regular paycheck. I haven't gotten a knowing regular paycheck for the last 7 years. My husband's job changed out, finished over a year ago, and he had a major job. And he immediately was starting to fret and fuss and all of this when that happened. And I was like, okay, I guess I should go get a job. And then when all this money, this different money changes that are going to happen weren't happening, because I thought all this was going to happen in 21. I asked him, I'm like, what are we going to do? What are you doing? What are you planning? What are you figuring out? And he's not really figuring out anything. He's like, well, I guess you're going to have to get a job. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Okay, this was like early on. Let's say like 4 months after he lost his job, 4 or 5 months. And his job, any job that he would get would take, a couple years to get, a year or two. I don't know. It would take a long time. And then all the companies are changing. And so there are no jobs to get. But he had to see that. And we had to have a discussion about this. And thankfully, my husband has always realized that having the woman home where she wants to be and putting together a home is actually the best place for her. My husband does not want to ship his wife off to another man's house to work for him. Okay, that's where you're getting your money from. That's a frequency that you're getting your money from to run your household. You're telling your wife that she has to work and your kids have to be in an institution. Because what's going to happen? What's going to happen if you take your kids? I don't care how old they are. They should not be in public school. They should not be in traditionally taught school. Every single kid, I wish I could just go in and scoop every child that is put in those institutions. Even here in upstate South Carolina, the homeschooling, it's just regurgitated public school at home. Everything is changing. The whole educational system is changing. Everything is going to change. But listen, this is what I ultimately am trying to get out. If you think that you're going to continue to work in the matrix, knowing that you shouldn't be there, continue to have your kids in the matrix, and just double down, oh, well, I have to do this. And then you complain because your life isn't the way you want, because you spend your whole life, your whole day being unhappy, 8, 10 hours a day. The time it takes you to drive to the work, the time you're at the work, all the stuff that happens when you're at the work. And then when you get home, an hour home, the money that you're spending on clothes, on coffee, on junk. My husband and I left. We packed up. We lived in Washington State. I had lived there for 40 years when we left, a little bit more. And he had lived there for 50 some years. And we packed up everything after, this is after you guys, we built a brand new home in Carnation, Washington, because I was trying to move out to farmlands and trying to work with Derek, because he was at the time, he was like how most of your husbands are, where he's like, no, we can't move because I had it in my heart that we needed to go to South Carolina. At least that was at least South Carolina. I knew that we needed to be on the East Coast, but I had had that in my heart actually for many, many, many years. But he's like, well, we can't move because I'm opening up this office in Seattle. And I'm like, well, a series of events happened, some stuff happened, and this was in Issaquah, Washington. I went in to go to a Target in 2020, and I had my child with me who was not even 2 yet. And I watched this woman with her blonde hair and her Lululemons and pants and her Tesla get up there, put her child in a cart, and I watched a man, a young man, say something about white privilege and hit the child on the head, like just kind of hit it on the head. The mom, I'm watching all this. The mom takes the child out of the cart and goes and apologizes to this man for the color of her child's skin, basically apologizing that her child was alive. That was the final straw, even though there was many, 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 many straws that broke the camel's back up into that point. Plus, we were into the whole COVID thing. And I had not in a music class, and they were gonna talk about putting masks on them. But we packed up and we left and we moved to upstate South Carolina. Actually, I moved us to North Carolina because I didn't even know. I didn't even know the difference and where I was going. I just knew I had to get there. And we leased a corporate housing and we got there and it was this tiny house, 1,800 square feet, tiny house. And guess what? They locked all of the closets. And I had an au pair, which is like a nanny from the Ukraine with us. And so I had her, I had my stepdaughter, my animals, my basset hound, my dog, cats, but we had lost one of the cats in Yosemite Park. We lost him. We had so much, and moving here was like moving to a third world or moving to a foreign country. Everybody acts different here. It's a whole different culture here. Uh, Lots of stuff has happened here. But my point is that we did this. And has it been easy? Have I looked back and been like, oh my God? I've only looked back and been like, oh my God, this is incredible. 2022 was a difficult time for me because we were remodeling a home that we purchased, the one that you see behind me. This is my office, and we had purchased a home instead of building a home through a series of events. We ended up here in Anderson County, and this is slowly, you guys, slowly me following all of my intuitive knowings and how I feel since 2014 have all led me here and awakened me to who I am and made me be able to look back on my life and see that it was all to get ready for this moment. So imagine if I hadn't done that. So imagine if I had not in 2022, which was a very difficult year for me, but it was time to move forward. I had moved over here in September 2nd of 2020. We landed here and we were remodeling this house. We had to find the house and then remodel the house, and we got robbed and we had the house gutted and then they stole all our money. Derek was trying to juggle his jobs. So much was going on. And this whole time, I am trying to double down that what I know and what I know still that's going to happen will happen. And I thought that the time that we're in right now was going to be then. I thought it was in 21 that we are going through all this. But I'm telling you guys all of this to say that your situation and your uncomfortableness, that you feel uncomfortable to make these changes are all normal. But you don't use just because you feel uncomfortable, that doesn't mean you don't take inspired action, which seems to be what people are saying to me. Well, Monica, we need the money. I have to do this because my husband said I do. I'm afraid of what he's going to think of me. I don't want to be called crazy. What are my in-laws going to think? Yeah, that's right. You're going to be called crazy. I'm talking to the women right now that know that they need to make changes, that know that they need to go and hopefully your kids aren't in school right now because we are in Christmas break. Okay, if you're in public school, but your kids should not be in there and you know it. And every single person that is listening to this level that has their kids in school, you either don't want them in school and you're too afraid to just move forward on your knowings. You know more than school administrators. You love your kids. They don't. Why would you send your kids? Why would you send your kids to a place where they are not loved for 8 hours a day? Why would you send your kids to a place where they are unloved for 8 hours a day? Why are you then spending your time wondering why your kids won't talk to you? Why your kids don't want to eat your dinner? Why your kids sit in their room all the time? Why are they playing video games all the time? Or whatever. If you want radical change, you've got to take radical change. You've got to make radical change. You're the creator of your reality. You're the one that decides how things go. It's not your husband's fault. It's not your partner's fault. It's not your kid's fault. It's not your boss's fault. It's not your mom's fault, your dad's fault. If you're somebody young listening to this or you live with your family, look around your life. Look around your life. If your life isn't the way you want it, change it. Is it going to be hard? It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. You can meet the qualifier that you don't have to meet the qualifier that you made up in your head that says that you have to understand and know and have everything figured out. And you can guarantee. What are you guaranteeing? What do you want to guarantee? You want to guarantee that you're able to make these changes without any hardships, without any strife, without any tears, without any frustration? without any nausea? You're not. And you don't need to. If you know, I'm telling you this, and I decided 10 years ago that I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what I'm doing. But what I do know is what I've been doing and the way I've been living my life has not produced a life filled with joy and happiness and peace and flow. So I set out to ultimately create my business that I named Raw with Peace. And I named it Raw with Peace because that's where I got. I got real, I got raw, and I found me. All of that tension that you guys feel, all of those knots that are in your stomach, that's your soul crying out. That's your soul crying out, wanting you to stop and slow down and look at what you're doing and stop reacting to life. Start looking at life. Start observing why you do what you do. Start parsing out whether what you're doing in your life is what you really want. Do you want to be separated from your kids? Is the reality is that you don't want to be with your kids all day? You don't want to stay at home and raise your kids? Because the reality is that most people, most women do want to raise their kids. Okay, society has tricked you and they've set it up where you're supposed to have some kind of money. You know, I get to peer into a lot of people's marriages, a lot of people's marriages. And I've had two marriages of my own. I'm in my second marriage that I will stay in. Um, so I have a lot of kind of viewing of the way relationships are and the way the things that men are doing in relationships. And they're not understanding the position that they're putting their wives into and what that's doing for society. So just like the way women got caught up in the feminist thing and feeling like they have to work and they don't want you to open up their door and all that junk, okay, then you guys have developed this thing where you think that the woman needs to work if she wants to have anything. I know marriages of decades where these women, they've been married for decades to men that work and they get to stay home. But if they want to do any of their passions, if they want to go on a trip, if they want to, do whatever passion and activity that they want, they have to go figure out how to make money because they don't have access to the money that their husband makes. There's this idea like, oh, this is my money. I'm making this money and I'm paying the rent or I'm paying the mortgage for you and I'm paying the car payment for you. And If you want anything above and beyond that, you need to get it. And so people get little part time jobs, or it was really big when I was in my 20s. It was really big to do like Pampered Chef or Mary Kay or one of those kind of things. And that is wrong. It is wrong for the men to have the women have, there needs to be a parent home, and the children need to not be going to school full time. But men need to understand that if they will sit back and let their women be who they are and let them create the home and let them be in their essence, that will bring out everything that you want to see in your wife. So right now you're fighting while your wife and you are both at work, and you guys are always fighting all the time. You're fighting about who's picking up the kids and who's taking out the garbage and who's going to pay this bill and what are we going to do and why are you playing video games all the time and why did you gamble our money away and why are you drinking and what are you doing now, and I think you're looking at pornography. What's happening? It's like that's what you're spending your time doing. Your kids are over in public school. You're over at your job. A lot of people, I guess, are having affairs, okay, in relationships. So, what I'm saying is, all of that mess, I feel like I've just been talking about the mess, all of that mess that you are ensnared in, okay, and this is for everybody. This is for everybody, even though you probably won't hear it. The people who are working a job and they think that their job's great, you know, they both have a job, so they're not bitching at each other because they're both making money, being the slaves that they are supposed to be for each other. Like, did you get married to somebody? Oh, I'm marrying you because you are going to be able to help me live a little bit better quality of life. So I'm marrying you for that reason, so you can work. As suggesting that staying home and raising the future generations. Imagine everybody, imagine if your kids were not, if the last generation of kids, their 20s, all the kids that are in their 20s, 20 years ago, imagine if none of those kids were in public school and did not go to college. We would not be where we are. We would not be where we are. It reminds me of, way back when they made out Christianity made meditation and yoga out to be a sin and to be evil. And I was taught that big time. And I was in the church up heavily, 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 heavily indoctrinated into the church till the age of 40. Um, but they taught that was evil. And the reason why is because way back when they went over to India, everybody was meditating and living this life and doing breath work and everything and doing the yoga, and they were enlightened and they weren't able to control them. That is the only thing that kept me in the life that I was in, that kept me in this programmed way of being. Was the lie that I, as a woman, had to be treated the way I was treated, and I needed to stay in my lane. I need to stay in my lane. I am not to have something for myself. I am not to have my own interests. And everything that I did do, because I kept up the whole time I was married. I got a medical transcriptionist certificate, so that's why I know about all this medical stuff. Um, but I did that. I took copious amount of classes, and then in 2005, I went back to work for Estee Lauder and whatever. But my husband made fun of me. He made fun of me because I was in the beauty business. My first husband did. He would, like, when we were in fights, he would sit there and go, "Oh, look at you. You're just schlepping lipsticks." Because I was working for, the Estee Lauder brand, but I was working for a Lancome or whatever. Doesn't matter about that. My point is I was marginalized. I was marginalized by the way I was forced to make money, and I was never working. Like I always said, from high school on, I was like, I will never work in fast food. I will never work in food. I will never work at a job that doesn't offer me something that I want or that benefits me. I will never just trade my time for money doing something that I absolutely can't stand. I have had jobs that I couldn't stand before, but but they were short lived. And I've always gone from job to job, been in a job for like a couple years or a few years and got training and whatever. And then the minute it wasn't serving me, I always kept my resume up. I kept everything up and I just went on to a new company because there's no loyalty. They don't care about you. Okay. They don't care about you and they don't care about your children, which brings us full circle. Excuse me. Take a sip of my green juice as I'm talking so much and I'm so passionate about this. And the reason why, you guys, listen, I can give you a guarantee. I can give you a guarantee. If you quit your job, I'm talking to the moms, or if the dads are in this position, because the dads can quit their jobs too. Anybody who's in a soul sucking job, anybody who's in a job that is solidifying the matrix. So if you work for the medical profession in any way, that is, it's all coming out what it's responsible for and what it's doing. If you're doing that, then you are perpetuating this evil agenda. You're perpetuating it. And so you are doing it. You are responsible for it. Okay. Every single thing, nothing exists other than consciousness. And consciousness is thought. And when there's enough thought compiled, it makes something physical. So you think enough in your mind that you need to go to work because you have to get money. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage and you're going to be homeless and you're going to be irresponsible. And what are people going to say? Okay. That's going to happen to you if you stay. And I'm saying for January, let's just to give myself some grace with everyone. January, February, March. January, February, March. Total, complete, jaw dropping, unreal, unbelievable changes will happen in your personal life and thus collectively. Because I know that the changes that are going to be happening in my life that I have been getting prepped and ready for, that change alone is going to change hundreds of lives. It's going to activate hundreds of situations. And I guarantee you that you guys do not want, if you are on the fence, if you are on the fence, excuse my dogs, if you guys are on the fence on which way to go. See, even the dogs are telling you. Hecate. Do you guys know the Titan goddess Hecate? She's kind of represented by the dogs, but she's all about the animal kingdom and she's the goddess of transition. Okay. So call on Hecate when you're just like, oh, I need some energy to make this transition. I'm scared. The first thing you do, you guys, just do it. You don't need to continue to talk about it. Call the school up or don't. If you want to be even more of a badass, don't. But call the school up and withdraw your child. And then tell your partner or tell them beforehand, I don't care. And then they're going to get mad and they're going to freak out and blah, 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 and go, yeah, well, on top of taking the kids out of school, I am going to quit working. And we're going to figure it out. And I don't know what that means, but I'm done chasing money and I'm ready to chase us. I'm ready to chase myself. I'm ready to find myself. Because when you find yourself, you find all the answers. And all the answers are inside of you. It was a lie. It was a lie, you guys. It was a lie that if you got a degree that you would be okay. That if you wore your hair a certain way that you would be okay. If you had the brands, wore the brands, if you had the car, you had the SUV, if you wore those Lululemons, you know, you take enough Ozempic and we're skinny enough. Oh, you're going to be happy. You're going to be so happy. Guess what? You're going to love it. Drive your Lululemons with your Stanley mug full of wine or vodka. Their kids in the back seat, driving through carpool in your beautiful SUV. Look at you. Wow. Awesome. You're cool. Okay, we're done with that. And people who are going to live like that and are going to live superficially and that are judgmental, because if you're worried about being judged, that's because you judge. Not accepting people for their differences, not accepting people for who they want to be. And let's just start with your partner. Are you accepting your wife? Are you accepting your husband? They're all on their own journey. Everybody's going to ascend, but not at the same pace and not at the same time. Which brings me into talking about worrying about other people's journey instead of worrying about your own. I guarantee you, if you're worried about somebody else, then you've got a lot of issues. You got a lot of issues. Because you only see in other people what is inside of you that needs to be dealt with. And right now, the frequency and going forward, it's only going to raise, but we are fully in these new energies now. And we are going from, we've always had natural law, But now natural law is completely, universal law, you might hear it called, is completely at the forefront. And everything is happening based off of natural law. So you cannot change it. You cannot be skinny enough. You cannot be rich enough. You cannot be fast enough. You cannot be smart enough. Okay, you can't have a big enough boat. You can't have a cool enough Porsche. You can't have enough stocks. You can't have enough Bitcoin. You can't have enough XRP. You can't have enough anything. If you don't have it inside your heart space where it's intrinsically you're living your authentic soul's cry, it's going to all fall apart. And your worst nightmare is going to happen. And all of you, everybody is going to make this jump unless you're downright evil. So what that means is that you're going to make this jump. You want to be as magnetic as possible, but you're going to make this jump and then you're still going to have to make these changes. You're still going to have to decide, but the only difference is that you are going to have 1,000% confirmation of the truth of your reality. And you will now be starting to shed your layers here in 2025, the year of the snake, when you could, if you did the work before and you do the work right now, which if you're working at a job or your kids are in public school or any kind of institution like that that you're participating in, you're paying taxes and you're bitching about it. Okay, that's a big thing, paying taxes. I go round and round with Christians about this. I'm not paying my taxes because I don't, just don't want to and think, oh my gosh. The only reason why you're paying your taxes is because you think you're going to get in trouble. But what if I told you that by paying your taxes, you're aligning your energies, your frequency. So you give off a frequency. And if you're paying taxes, your frequencies are aligned with an organization that is trying to and that has killed your children, your family. All of you guys have been diagnosed with cancer. They've taken your gallbladder out. Copious surgeries, been butchered. Yeah. And where has that gotten you? So, and that's all to avoid pain. That's all to avoid, ruffling feathers. That's all to avoid being controversial like me. I don't pay taxes and I would not. And knowing what I know now, if I did pay taxes, like when we pay taxes, I guess when we go buy something, we can't help it. Okay, I don't have a choice, but I align my money as much as possible with with high frequency things, with things that align with source creation, which align with the new earth. Okay. The old earth is going away. Maybe you're going to get your taxes back. But again, you're doing that. You're paying your taxes. You're going to work. You're putting your kids in school. You're paying all the interest on your credit cards. You're going to court. That's a big one. Let's talk about the court system in the US. This will be a long podcast. So just sit back, go get some more coffee or tea because I feel like talking today. And that's what I want my podcast. I want to get this stuff out. Let's talk about the court systems. Let's talk about going to court. Do you need to be part of it? What do you think my answer is going to be at this point? What happens if you don't go to court? Okay, let's back it up. So, a few years ago in 2021, I was saying to my husband, we need to keep our daughter away from your ex-wife because, okay, and just a little backstory, she followed us here to South Carolina. She followed us here to South Carolina under the idea that I thought, but I realize now that she lied to me. She was conspiring against me. I had her over for Easter dinner with my ex-husband in April of 2020 when all this stuff first started. But let me fast forward to this criminal case and all the things with the courts. And this is another layer of information about quantum living and living in the new earth and how we're going by natural law now. Okay. And we're in the in between time. And so, what happens with court cases? What do you need to do? Even if you're going to get a divorce, okay, you do not need to use the courts. And I'm shocked to learn this, but men and women do not know that you can just get an online divorce. You do not have to have attorneys. That's another scam. Okay. All the attorneys are. So if you get divorce papers sent to you, your spouse gives you divorce papers because he went and got an attorney and then served you and blah, blah, blah. Okay. You don't have to get an attorney. You do not have to get an attorney. You can do this all. You can read whatever he wrote up with his attorney. And if you agree to it, then you can just sign off on it. If you don't agree to it, you can state, I want this, whatever, come to agreement. The best thing to do and the highest vibrational thing to do, okay, is to sit down. This is for people who are getting divorced in terms of instead of using the legal system. First of all, also a little caveat, but we're not really there yet. I don't even think that the divorce or marital contracts are even, they don't even mean anything now because there's no, we're in the Republic. Those were contracts that were made under the old system. That is done. So, but I'm just going to tell you guys this because I coach a lot of people and the running theme is I want to get a divorce, but I don't have money for an attorney. So I'm just saying, you don't need an attorney. You can do it all online. It's just legal paperwork. You could walk up to the courthouse, get the paperwork, fill it out, sign, be done. Okay. And the way you do that, because now it's always about the money. Okay. And this brings us to more talking about the courts. And I want you guys to see this, that it is all about the money with people. It's not about whatever it seems like it's about. Like I'm getting so sick of seeing where people, like, let's say I saw somebody on TikTok, they fell out of the roof of their apartment. It's like a two, or their house or whatever. They fell through the roof. They fell through the ceiling and landed on the, landed on the second floor, on the floor below. And I read the comments and it says, "Oh, you're probably in shock right now, but I'm sure you're in a lot of pain. You need to get an attorney and something else. I can't remember what it was, but it's like you need to get an attorney and start a lawsuit." And it's just that's ridiculous. Why? Why would you sue? Oh, and they were talking about, oh, I can imagine the kind of settlement you're going to get. That that is going away. No, that is gone. It's no longer in the frequency other than what you perpetuated as. So the court systems are being used to, they're being used and they're weaponizing, they're being used as a weapon against parents, against each other, spouses, all of this. There is no reason to have a marital contract. You do not need to have a marital contract. I never could understand why other groups wanted the right to be married. The people that aren't part of that initiative, if they understood why they created marriage, they wouldn't be. They'd be like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not part of that. I don't want to be a part of it. So it's to weaponize against. So in the state of South Carolina, here, and this I was shocked about. So going back to what I was saying, in 21, we were concerned. I was saying we got to keep her away. She's going to hurt. She's going to hurt her, and she's probably going to put her on medication if she hasn't already. And then she'll probably end up in a mental home and all this. I said all of that because I actually had seen it in like a movie. Um, and I saw them living together too. And I told my husband, I'm like, listen, I mean, I was freaking out, but he was not aligned with me and he didn't understand me at that time. And so, and he was afraid of the courts, which is what they want. And so he goes, no, we can't do that because she's going to get court papers and she's going to take me to court and then I'll be in trouble and all this. Well, that's what she did. Like she drew court papers in 21 to get the court order from Washington moved over to South Carolina, which in that court order was that she gets to see the child X amount of days. And at that time, I was letting Sydney decide where she stayed. I was letting the child decide where she stays. And she did not want to be around her mom because I was able to have enough influence of her at the time. So fast forward, her mom makes it, goes through the courts and makes it so that she has to see her again and that we have to let her over there. So she starts going over there and then they start weaponizing. She starts changing, the child starts changing even more, and stop taking showers, stop caring for herself. She eventually took her and didn't return her. And then they used the court system, and the state of South Carolina gave her stripped custody of the child, which the dad, my husband, has full custody because the mom did not have full custody in Washington state because she was on copious amounts of medication and she was certified mentally ill and all this. And she sees a psychiatrist and all this to keep it all going. But this is all part of the plan, is to alienate the parents So what I want to just tell you, I don't need to get into every detail because I'm telling you guys so many things. But what I'm ultimately telling you is that we didn't participate in the court system. She went and tried to get child support and she made up how much he made. She doesn't know that he hasn't worked in 18 months. And she thought that was a lie. And the courts were able to go into our personal banking information and give the ex wife banking information. Okay. She's not married to him anymore. This isn't a divorce proceeding. Okay. So, anybody, so your neighbor, if your neighbor doesn't like the way you looked at them, they could just go in and start a lawsuit. Okay. And then if you participate in it, then you're giving consent and then you're part of it. But if you don't give consent, so I told my husband, I was like, you are not going to the courthouse. You're not part of this. And he's like, well, I feel like I want to because I don't want Sydney to think that I don't care about her. And I'm like, she won't. That's the thing is that this is about money. She's been brainwashed into this. And if you go there, they might arrest you or something. Something will happen. And it turned out that they were trying to get him to say bad things against me. And they did try to get our child, her sister, removed by having CPS come with a made up report. But more importantly, CPS, Child Protective Services, it's a private organization that is just a veil for a human trafficking ring. Okay, for the government. And they get like $30,000 initially, and then it's all the way up to $3 million a child. Okay, so they did all this. South Carolina, South Carolina stole. Oh, the other thing is that the child support, they want child support. They want to get child support through the courts because guess what? They get a copy of it. They get a like if it's let's say 2000 a month, they get South Carolina gets a mirroring of it, $2,000 a month. So you really think that you can just somebody can just anybody, whether they're married to you, they're friends with you at one point, but if they know you like me, my image has been taken and people say they're going to take me to court because somebody stole or bots or whatever stole my image, started off on TikTok and now it's on X and everywhere else. Take my image, make fake videos, people give them their information and they get their XRP or whatever taken and then they're mad at me. Well, that's not my fault. That's not my fault. And I'm not participating in any court cases. Nothing can happen. And I've been poking holes in all of it. I've poked holes in the lie that you have to have a job and work for the engine and the machine, or else you're going to be destitute. That is a lie. And also, when you do all of this stuff, when you interact with the matrix in this manner for money, or let's just say out of fear, you're doing it out of fear because ultimately everything results down to fear. What does fear stand for? False evidence appearing real. So anytime that you feel fear, you just say, nope, false evidence appearing real, and then you just turn and do what you want to do. But constantly talking about this, constantly talking about getting out of the matrix, you get out of the matrix by stop participating in it. Stop valuing money over your family, over yourself. Stop putting their God above you. Stop letting fear dictate the life that you create. You're creating whether you want to create or not. You're creating 100% of the time. And every single thing that you create is going there. Energy doesn't die, it just transmutes. It's like today, I'm spending, we're up to an hour and 14 minutes. And I've coached somebody today and talked to them for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I did a podcast yesterday and I met with another gal yesterday. All energy put out that is going to go into ways, millions of ways that are going to be ways that are only going to uplift the planet. And I know that I have a lot of energy and I create a lot of energy. And I am here to pass it on to you because I know that when I was going through all of this, my personal ascension, I feel like is basically done in terms of just you can complete your personal ascension. You can complete it. I'm actually think I might jump on with my group today or this week and do some ascension class to kind of go over our ascension class, which I do have at therealityshifters.com. I want you to know that I do have an academy there. And in that academy, I have a quantum transformation course. And those courses, there's also an ascension course that comes with an ascension guide that you can print out or just view it digitally. Okay. But this ascension guide is a very comprehensive and it will help explain the science and the mechanics of what's going on and what you can expect and kind of explain what's going on with your physicality right now. Okay. Because your heart has moved and your kidneys have moved. So you're having a lot of changes. We're having DNA upgrades. So there's a lot going on. So I created the Ascension course with an Ascension guide. And I also created a course called Quantum Transformation Course. And it is an 8-module, 12-lesson course that will move the needle if you apply the information, if you do the meditations that get you to 0 point mind, to get you to your Buddha mind. Okay. You get to the 0 point mind where you have no chatter in your head. You're connected. You're connected with the divine. That's where the all knowing, that's where all the information comes from. And you will change your life. So let's make today the day that you make these changes. Be done waffling around with yourself. I've given you, if you've listened this far or you're hearing this part, and I told you that I have classes, and I guarantee the class, I guarantee the quantum transformation course. You can get access to all these courses for, I think it's $97, get you into the academy as well as into the membership into my private community, which gets you into all my workshops, my lives, and it gets you connected with the other souls that we are all coming together with. So check that out. You can join the community for $8.88, which is just a few dollars, and not have access to the courses. The reason I'm doing that is because I want you guys to put an equal amount of energy. I mean, that course, I could charge $500 for that course, and it would not be too much. But it is only $97 a month because I'm doing it in the reality shifters, and you get access to all the other courses, and you could cancel after you get those classes done. You could cancel it and then move on to the 888 a month membership if you wanted. But a lot of people are looking at it as that they are supporting me. This is your humanitarian project, being part of the reality shifters and being part of a community, because this is the future. You will be getting part of a community. You will. The separatism thing is over with. So we have this as a virtual community, but I'm pretty sure this year, 2025, we'll be meeting. I will be listing all of my trips that I'm going to go on. And then the people who want to go on that trip will sign up. And we will be going on trips together. We're going to be taking this live. So we're going to be learning. One of the places I want to go to is one of the trips I'm going to go on to is tell me what you think in the comments of wherever you're listening to this. Would you love this trip? So it's a trip to Norway, and we're going to go on this beautiful yacht. We're going to get a yacht, and we're going to go on a beautiful yacht. We're going to have beautiful cold water activities, but we're going to go to this beautiful island where mermaids are rumored to hang out in. So there is lots of crazy things, and there's caves to dive into and crystals everywhere. And that's what I'm going to be doing. So we're going to be doing beautiful, beautiful high-end retreats. This isn't spirituality of the old where you act like you're more, how do I say, humble or whatever because you're acting poor. So I live a very simple life in the sense of, I don't eat complicated food, and I'm in nature, and I just kind of hang out with the bunnies and my kittens and all this kind of stuff. Uh, but it's very simple. It's very simple, but it's very luxurious at the same time. And that's what we're going into. We're going into the age of Aquarius. We're going into the golden age. So for the next 20 years, you guys, how many people do I have? I'm getting my group up. And as I get you guys into my connected with me, and you guys know when you're connected to me, you know what it is. Then you guys get people that you're connected with, and then I end up meeting them or whatever, but then we're all connected. I feel like I'm connected to all of you guys. I'm connected to all of your kids. I care about every single child. I think about every single child, as a whole. And we're going to be creating new schools. All this stuff is changing, radical, radical change. Okay. Guess I've talked long enough about it for today. But radical change is upon us. January of 2025 is going to be jaw dropping. Jaw dropping. So get ready for this cold blast that's coming over the entire country, but it's going to especially pummel the East Coast. That's coming up in around January. It depends on who you talk to, but the first half of January, we're going to be really cold, okay? But for about a week or two from January 5th, January 7th, it's going to be freezing, snapping cold. I got all my heating pads and everything all set up for my bunnies because they're outside in their little area. And my chickens and my peacocks and all of that are all getting ready for this beautiful time of transition. So get your homes ready. Get your hearts ready. Keep your kids, keep your spouse, put your swords down. Whoever you're living with, if they annoy you, do something nice for them today. Do something nice for them, clean the house, go home early. If you're listening to this and you're at work, go home. Go home. Hug your wife, kiss your husband, tell your kids you're sorry. You won't do it again. They don't have to go back. It's the best decision you'll make. It's the best decision you'll make if you're looking to bring love and joy and happiness and prosperity and abundance. If you're looking to install that program into your life, it's not found. It's not found at your job. It's not found at the school. It's not found at the church. It's found in your heart. It's like Dorothy with the red slippers. You can go home anytime you want. You can go home now.